Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a really quick look at a new book that just came out. I backed it on Kickstarter. I don't know if it will still be available. I hope so because it's a nice book. I'll find out and put a link if it is. But this is a new book by Martin Simpson called NORD. I backed it because just the art style looked so cool. I didn't even really pay attention to what the story was about. I'm not going to go into it too much because, like I said, it's a new book and I don't want to spoil it. But this is put out by Soaring Penguin Press. I don't know if that's Martin Simpson's self-publishing or if that's somebody else. I feel like I've heard that name before. But this is basically taking Norse mythology and rewriting that. And, well, not rewriting it, but adding to it. And Martin Simpson has an essay in the back about how Norse mythology actually, there's not many original documents, and so it's pretty open to addition. And that's what he's doing, is just adding his own little addition to the mythology. And it's really cool. It's a really cool book with, I think, with a really good message in it. You know, it's like properly mythological, and the art, as you can see, is just stunning as well. So part of the book works, like you can see, more like a not a kid's book, because it's not kids book in content, but where you have writing and illustrations, and then in other sections you get comics. And so I like that blend too. It is more like a book of mythology, and then the sections where it really makes sense to decompress a little bit, and show the stuff rather than say in writing. And I think Simpson has a pretty good idea of when that's appropriate and when it's not, to switch between the two. But you can see his illustration style is just really, really cool. It's just like alive with these cross contour lines rippling all over and creating motion everywhere. And then his abstract sense of design underneath that, the character designs and the page designs, are really, really appealing to me as well. That was why I, initially backed it. I just saw the art and I don't care what this is about. I just wanted to see what it looks like. And here you can see some of his, I think it's all digital painting is what it looks like to me, but these days sometimes it's hard to tell because this kind of stuff looks pretty chalky to me. But what digital is getting so good at recreating, I'm assuming it's all digital. I think one of the things that he does really well is that the colors aren't necessarily always super saturated. Sometimes they get a little more saturated. There's a mutedness to them, but he really balances out, like right here, especially the warms and the cools, in a way that it just gives so much dimensionality. And then, like I said, there's always these kind of lines moving everywhere that map out the volume, the cross contour lines mapping out the volume. And so basically the story is about this character here. He was a great Norse king, and then he gets sent on a mission into the afterlife. That's as much as I'll say about the story, because you should go read it yourself. So this king has been given this special sword, and he's on a mission to defeat death in the afterlife. I also, at this page, I had made a note that the use of warm and cool, and kind of the forms and the layouts and stuff, remind me of the Hildebrandt brothers. That was like the one kind of artistic touch point. And I think to some extent, with this kind of mechanical stuff and the cross contouriness of it, there's a little bit of H.R. Giger in there, but not quite so gross. Here, there's one, little formalism that I liked, where this character is about ready to climb up a hill, and then in the writing it says, and then everything suddenly felt different, as if his entire quest had abruptly flipped on its side. And then you get this just really, really awesome, epic, tall shot there. And so I know, in like the 90s, we would get a lot of these where people were just looking to have more space for like a big shot. And that's pretty much what this is. But I always enjoyed when, I remember an issue of Sandman where it kind of spun on purpose, or David Mack would do that in Kabuki, where kind of the story would give you a reason to spin it. And so even just throwing a little bit in the dialogue like that to justify the spin was really cool. It does turn back into horizontal format on the next page without a real text lead in. I think it would have been cool if the book would have just stayed in a flipped version for a few pages until the writing justified it going back the other way. But I thought that was really fun. And again, you just get a sense of the really cool shapes, like I said, Sean's really got me thinking more about silhouette. So just how powerful this is in silhouette. And then these things behind it, kind of these three layers of foreground, middle ground, background, and then, you know, all the cool details and designs inside of it. So really, really enjoyed this book. I think it's beautiful. And then the storybook nature of it, at first I was like, oh, I thought I was buying a comic book, but it made sense over, you know, as I started reading it, I was like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. So I really, really enjoyed this book. I love Martin Simpson's art, and I'm really excited to see whatever he does next. So please, if you can, if I can find a link, please go out and get yourself a copy of this and support what Martin Simpson's doing, because I think it's pretty cool stuff. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel and you want to support us, there's two ways to do that. The first is through our Patreon. We have 2 different tiers of engagement on there. At the first tier, you can get early access to our videos. At the second tier, you get exclusive previews of the graphic novels that Sean and I are drawing, as well as the ability to participate in our ongoing webcomic experiment, Pranay, where you can vote and help control what happens on Pranay's next awful recursion of his Groundhog Day that he's stuck in. So we really appreciate that. Any of the money that we get from Patreon just goes right back into helping us buy the books that we review, so it helps keep the channel going and lets us put that money into other people's pockets in the end, and we really appreciate that. If you want to support Living the Line itself, the best thing to do is to buy some of the books that Sean is releasing, so we'll go ahead and take a look at one of those projects now. The Exile by Eric Creek is a gorgeously illustrated Viking saga of revenge. Eric Creek calls it his Viking Western. It's about a guy who's been away on the warpath and is returning home to some family troubles that have to be resolved. And this is told in just this amazing, like, kind of 3-color art style that looks like old woodblock cuts or something. It's absolutely gorgeous book that you've got to pick
up. Like and subscribe and hit the bell, please, so Carson can finish reading his books and let me go home.